I'm Paul,
I'm Devin.
and together we're Dads and Dice, two brand new dads who like to play some games during our free time.
That's right. And today we are joined by our good friend Joe. The three of us just got back from BGG Con. It was an awesome time. I think we all had a complete blast. I don't want to speak for you guys, but I'm pretty sure we all did. We played. I think our total number was what, 23?
Yeah, it was 23 brand new games to us.
Yeah, so we played 23 new games. We will post the list of all the games that we played in the description. But today we really just wanted to talk about the 5 games that we all liked the most. And that's really kind of where this is going to go.
Before we get into the top list, we'll talk about a little bit of like our check-in and all that kind of stuff, when we got there. This was Joe's first real big con that he's been to. But when we got there, I drove to your house the morning of. Joe came down the night before. We were all super pumped for it and just real excited. You didn't even let me go to Starbucks in the morning because we were already running late.
We had to get there.
So we had to get there. But it was a ton of fun. And Joe, I mean, if you want to talk a little bit about, your first kind of con experience.
Yeah, I didn't expect, I kind of should have expected, the long line to kind of get in, but it really wasn't too bad. We got there about 30 minutes early. And then once we got through the line, it was nice and easy. And we just kind of grabbed a game and found our table, and the weekend was off. So 3.5 days of gaming, man, it was awesome. I really had a great time with you guys, and I don't know, can't wait to go to the next one. So that was awesome. Had a great time.
Exactly, we definitely have to do it again. But to get into the point of today's video, I think we should start off with number 5. And Paul, we'll let you go first.
All right, yeah. So my this was a hard list for me to make. I have my little note card and it's stuff scratched out, and I've got arrows going back and forth and stuff like that. But I think my number 5 game of the convention was Wonderland's War. That was a really cool game. So I haven't played too many bag builders, and that was an interesting one to play. It reminded me a lot of Quacks, but not so much the push your luck kind of aspect of it, right? Like I felt like there was a little bit more strategy to the game than in Quacks, more because of the area control of the board and stuff like that. But overall, it was a really cool game. I definitely want to play it again. The only reason it's not higher on my list is just because the setup seemed really fiddly. Like there was a ton of stuff to set up. We had a pretty big table, and it took up the entire table, right? And even then, we had stuff on top of other things, and you had to really like look to see where you're going. So anyway, that's why I would put Wonderland's War at number 5.
Right. So I agree with that game. It was a really fun game. I would never choose a Alice in Wonderland themed game, right? And I'm not a theme person. I can play almost anything. That is one I would never pick up off the shelf. So glad that we played it. And I do agree with kind of your complaint of it was kind of an unnecessary table hog, right? It was a very wide board, right? The locations that you were competing over were really spread out over them. We each had our own little player board, had to have the bag over here, the chip, your active area up here, your exhaust area down here. So I do agree with that like, it just, I don't know, there was, that would be the biggest complaint I had. I really did enjoy the game, but it just did take up so much table space.
Mm-hmm.
And I went in knowing nothing about the game. Paul suggested it and said he saw Wonderland's War. I didn't know what to expect. And then as soon as we opened the box and started reading the rules and realized it was a bag builder, brain explosion. So like it was a cool surprise. I was I enjoyed that game. I thought it was a pretty neat game.
Oh,
And with that being said, a big shout out to Christopher Preston from Instagram. He found us when we were playing this game, and he explained this game so perfectly. And I know Joe, you were really interested in the rule book at the time, but he did such a good job of explaining that game
dude,
that whenever we did start playing it, it was like, oh, okay, this makes sense.
yeah, I am so impressed with like the fact that he just caught us as we were setting it up, and he was like, "Oh, you want me to go over this game?" And it was kind of like a casual, like, "You want me to go over it?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." I thought he was going to give us a brief overview, and then like off the top of his head, he pulled this like perfect teach out, and I was like, "Oh shoot, I know how to play the game. Perfect thing." So yes,
Yeah.
that was awesome. Okay, so moving on to, I'll go with my number 5 game. It was Azul Queen's Garden. This game was one that was not at all what I was expecting. I was expecting an Azul game, right? And what I mean by that is the base Azul, Azul's Summer Pavilion, right? They're simpler games, I would put, right? They're quick, they're easy. This was not easy. This was, I don't know what it took us, an hour, hour and a half of
hmm
purely burning your brain. You really needed to plan what you were going to try and score that final round and how things were going to connect in the end from the first tile you placed. And we hit it at a weird spot in the day where we had just come off a longer game. We thought, okay, we'll play Azul. It'll be our kind of decompressing game. And it turned into the exact opposite. We went from thinking to thinking harder. But I ended up really liking it. I really want to try it again. Not 100% sold on like, I need to own this game, so I need to like play it some more. But definitely enjoyed it.
It was kind of an odd one, huh? It was like the Azul name, because of the tiles, but it was a lot tougher than Azul. It was a couple steps above in the difficulty and the brain burning aspect. So, the Azul title, I was ready for a nice easy game, and Devin, like you said, it was not. It's a really big brain burner. So it was a definite surprise when we got to the middle of that game. We're like, oh, this is something bigger
Yes.
than the original.
So this one for me was one that I've written on my note card and crossed off a couple times. Like it was really going for that number 5 spot for me. The biggest issue that I had with the game is that it is called Azul's Queen Garden because like you guys mentioned, it's not, I don't consider it an Azul type game. So maybe my expectations were just different going into it, that the actual gameplay didn't match what I wanted it to be. I think this game would do just fine, or I think the game is good enough that it shouldn't be in the Azul category. I think the reason that it is Azul is just for that name, right? It's going to get more recognition just because it has Azul Queen's Garden. But in reality, I don't think it should even be in the same
Yeah,
pot with the other Azul
I
games.
definitely see that, right? Like, you're going to sell it because it's Azul, and that sells
hmm
more copies than if you had just come out with a game called Queen's Garden. Joe, what you got for number 5?
So my number 5 is going to be Dune Imperium. So this is one of those games that I was a little bit on the fence, and when I read the rules, I was like, oh, this will be straightforward. And for me, the game kind of was straightforward. It For me, it was like a water deep, kind of just a worker placement, place two actions, but with the caveat that the cards you don't use are things you get at the end of the turn. And I do like that about trash stuff. Anytime you can get a bad result and make something good out of it, use the bottom of cards that aren't used. Great. So to me, it was water deep with a little conflict space, and it was also deck building. So to me, this is a better version of Lost Ruins of Arnak. For me, I would get this game and probably chunk Arnak. You probably need one of the two if you like either of the themes. So I didn't expect to like Dune. I know nothing about Dune, but the game was a fun game.
Right. So this game for me, as you guys both know, is in a odd spot. I didn't quite enjoy the game or got soured on the game. I should say. I agree that it's a better version of Arnak, but to me, it ended up being felt like a worse version of Waterdeep. Like I would always choose to play Waterdeep, and that's a game that I own. So I don't see a need for me to ever get Dune, right? Like I would just, if I owned both those games, I would be choosing Waterdeep. It was, and I even consciously, when playing the game, thought I would rather be playing Waterdeep during this because that was the same feeling I got in the game. It was very worker placement-y. Anyway, but that's me.
And I think pretty much the same thoughts that you have, Devin. And with you, Joe, saying it's like Arnak. I don't know why, but Arnak should really click with me. Dune Imperium should really click with me. I love worker placement games. I love the deck building games. But like Devin said, I'll always pick Lords of Waterdeep over it. I will pick Clank over it. It does all those things, but the same issue that I have with Arnak is it's trying to do too many things, and it doesn't do one thing overly well, right? It does everything good, but not anything great.
And that's why I think I resonated with Dune Imperium, just like you said, Paul. It like just elevated Arnak just a
Hmm.
little bit, and it's just a good kind of basic game. I don't think it does anything fantastic, but it does things better than Arnak, which tried to do a little bit of everything.
Hmm.
So I
And it's a
enjoyed
game that I
it.
would definitely play again. I would definitely play it again if you were to buy it. I just don't think I would have it in my collection.
Yeah,
And
for
that's
sure.
fair.
Nothing wrong with that. All right, Paul. Let's move on to our number fours. What do you have?
Number four for me was Cascadia. So that one's actually a little bit lower than I would have expected to put it. And actually, since the convention, I've played it three more times. I don't own it yet, but I've gone up to the D20 Tavern here and I've played it solo. I played it with Kirsten. Actually, we did that last night. And it's just such a fun, relaxing, easygoing game. Tile laying, love tile laying. I love the theme. It's so just nice and peaceful, looking at it. And then the replayability is just really high with all of the cards that are on there, the different scoring cards. Like it just makes it so vastly different every time you play it. The randomness of the tiles, the randomness of the actual animal tokens, and all that stuff. I just think it's a great game overall.
So, because there were so many other games we played, did not make my list, but I did love that game. It was just fun. It was like
Hmm.
that's a game that I was having fun playing, right? Like, and I think that's a big thing, right? We asked ourselves that several times throughout the weekend was, were you having fun or are you having fun? Because that's why we play board games, right? Like we play for the competitiveness and to win, but you also got to have fun. And
Hmm.
that game was just fun. I do want to play it again because we just got to see whatever the 5 different ways to score, and like I know there's got to be. I looked kind of glanced through the cards. There's so many other ways to score that it's like I do want to try that again. So yeah, I also really enjoyed it.
And to just add on a little bit onto that, that was what I wanted Azul to be. Not the same kind of, theme or anything, but the type of gameplay, right? I wanted something that is just fun to play, fun tile placements and stuff like that. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, I really enjoyed teaching this game to you guys. I thought, we learned it pretty quick. We got it to the table pretty quick. Everybody picked up on it. I played this with two and with three, and it was awesome with both player counts. So had a great time playing this with you guys. This was one of those just we went, we played a game straightforward, and we had a good time.
Yeah. And speaking of the player counts, right? I don't know what does that play up to? 4?
Plays up to four.
Well,
Yep.
like that's a game that I feel like is quick enough that at any player count it would be good, right? You're going to be back to you in 45 seconds, right? Like it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter the player count. You can still have fun and not be like, oh, come on, Joe, hurry up, right? So
There's four choices out there. You pick one, you move on. So,
yeah.
Paul, I'm glad you like that. Cascadia is a great game.
yeah, it's
So
awesome.
all right. So for my number 4, we're gonna go opposite Paul on the more lighter game, and we're gonna go one of our heavy hitters. It was Food Chain Magnet. I had a blast. We played this late at night. I ended up spending probably over an hour teaching that to you guys, and we probably didn't get to start playing until about 9 o'clock and went to midnight or so. still had a blast, even through all the fatigue, even doing it day 3 or whatever. That game was fun. I know it was new for all of us. None of us really quite knew what to expect. I had had learned the game, but I really had never played it to know like how it plays. And there's no other game I've ever really played that's like it. That's the best way to put it. Like I cannot really even compare it to another game to be like, oh, it's kind of like this, because there was just nothing I've ever played that's like it, and I really enjoyed playing that.
Yeah, that was one of those, games that just came out of nowhere. I knew I wanted to play it one time. And Devin, I also put this in my number 4 spot. So this is my number 4 game as well. Putting the food tokens, we played just the base set. We didn't play any expansions. So it just had the 5 basic, the 3 drinks and the 2 food. And we put those out there, and the board doesn't look exciting, but then you realize that, the billboards and the houses and the restaurants, like it's kind of fun, but man, is it a brain burner. And you're right. You did a great job teaching us, and if it wasn't for you, we'd be fumbling around for a while. But man, that's a game that, like they said, you could lose on turn 1, turn 2, and you're off to the races. But man, I had a great time. What'd you think about it, Paul?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to play a game with tech trees, that's the game that you go to, right? Like, you have to get this to get this, and you have to do this in order to do this. Awesome game. It was probably one of the games that I was least looking forward to tell you the truth. Um, but a ton of fun. Uh, awesome game. Definitely recommend it to anybody, but more on that a little bit later.
Okay, so
yeah.
with that said, we can go into our number 3s, and since I stole your number 4, Joe, what do you have for number 3 here?
Well, number 3 is Paul already mentioned. We got Wonderland's War. When we opened the box, I just didn't expect anything. And what did we get? We got a colorful Quacks of Quedlinburg style bag builder-esque game with a little bit of area control, a little bit of push your luck. It was late at night. We had the game explained to us really well, like you guys said. And it was just, I didn't expect that from an Alice in Wonderland game. Bag building's fun, randomness is fun in games, and I had a really good time with it. I don't care I lost, but we got to move stuff, place out of bags. It was a fun time.
Yeah, again, I did really enjoy that.
The one thing that I'll say about that game, that's a little bit of a negative, and we've talked about it a little bit, is if you are not going to war in that specific area. So if Devin, you and Joe were battling each other and I was out of it, my only option is to either throw wager on one of you guys or just sit there and wait. The wager's not doesn't have that much of a weight to it, right? Like it's kind of pointless on its own. But then again, thinking about it, you're battling for, not very long. And you can get into the game still, and I can be excited to watch Devin bust or to watch you pull out like a shard of glass or whatever, right? Like
Right.
there's still some excitement in there if I'm willing to get involved.
Right. The downtime's a little rough. I'm with you, Paul.
I definitely can see that, especially if, in a given round or a given battle, you're not in 2 of the 3 of them, or 2 of the 5 of them, right? And if those happen to fall back to back, then it's like, oh, well, this is a 5-minute period where I'm not involved at all, and here's another one that I'm not involved at all. So I definitely see that. Moving on to my number 3, it is a surprise game for me. Had not heard anything about it before the con, and it was Meadow. I thought that game was so much fun. You guys, I say this all the time, but I don't care about themes, right? This is definitely one I never would have picked up, right? It's just another stupid nature theme. That's the way I'm going to word it, right? There's so many of them. The box art is catchy for the wives or for the people like Paul that love nature themes. Exactly. Never would have picked it up. Honestly, had a blast playing it. The way, and honestly, I really want to play it again, right? Because now that I see how the way the seasons go and how it changes halfway through, and you get that North deck, right? It's like just the way those cards stacked on each other, and I don't know, there was just so much I really, really enjoyed about that game.
Yeah, that was one that I've actually seen a lot about online and stuff like that, and it was one that honestly slipped my mind. I have forgot to mention it, on our top 15 games that we wanted to try at BGG Spring, but it was a game that I wanted to try, and I think it was you, Devin, or maybe it was you, Joe, but one of y'all said, "Hey, this one we should try this one out." And then it all of a sudden clicked. I was like, "Oh yeah, that was one that I wanted to try," and yeah, it was an awesome game.
I didn't know what to expect going in. I almost, I don't know if it hindered the game, but it's a game that I would like to play again. I would like to give it a second chance to see, is it something that belongs in a collection, or is it something that can be played once a year? It was just difficult, like you said, Devin, to really understand after the first season when I was like, oh, I can't get this anymore. Here come cards that need, something that's all, long gone.
Yeah,
Oh well, I guess.
definitely, right? So playing it again, right, you realize that the things like the butterflies and the flowers, wow, these are so valuable. You need to get them in those first 3 rounds because you need them for
Hmm.
dang near every card in the last 3 rounds, right? But I think it was nice because we were all on an equal playing field, not knowing, right?
Yeah.
The other thing I really enjoyed about that game, and this is something I don't actually typically like in games, right, is that it was a constant point dunk. Every turn, it's like, oh, and I'm getting 2 points from this, and I'm getting
Hmm.
3 points from this, and then in the later rounds, it might have been I'm getting 4 points from this, right? But every turn, it was pretty much getting. You may take the I need to get one of the foundation cards. It's not worth any points this turn, but for the most part, it was. And our game was really tight, right? Like I
Hmm.
didn't know who was going to win the game, and in the end, I think we had maybe a total of a 5 point spread between first and last because every turn you're making, you're doing something.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a fun game. My number three. From this point on, my list is a little weird, but my number three is Formula D. I absolutely love this game. And the only reason that this isn't my number one is because I think it was just the environment that we were in. We were all like beat, our heads were just destroyed from games. And we decided, let's play this game. We're gonna set 30-second time limit. You can't think about what you're doing, just do it. And I had such a blast playing Formula D. It was so much fun, just pushing our luck to try to make those corners. I don't think this is a game that I would ever own, but if anybody ever has it, 100% I will play it.
Okay, so to give everybody a real idea here of how we played this and what made this game so much fun, because if you've ever played this game, you probably are like thinking Paul's a tad bit crazy for this, right? One, we had played Dune Imperium, whatever that honeycomb game was that was also
Honey Buzz.
Honey
Honey
Buzz,
Bun.
excuse me, that was kind of a really thinky game. And then we played Arc Nova, right? And so then we're like, our brains were completely fried and we needed a break. So Joe and I had played Formula D before, and we played the game like normal with one house rule. We took no longer than 20 seconds for our turns. And once you started moving your car forward, that was it. So because when Joe and I played this before, it ended up turning into this slog fest of counting out how many spaces and, oh, should I go up a die? Should I stay? And what's the best thing to do? And we came out hot and we just were like, I'm shifting up, rolling. Oh no, there goes a tire. There goes a brake. Oh, I got to change down 3 gears. There goes my engine. It was a complete roller coaster blast.
Here we go. We're playing Formula D. Let's see how it goes. So I got a one.
Shift in now.
So whenever my eyes are to
4.
fate,
Oh, let's go.
One, two,
to be
three, four. I'm gonna break.
messed up on in your
Four.
One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight,
9, 10, 11, 12. Was that green die?
Paul's coming out hot.
10. And the very first roll die, I get a 1. I have an engine malfunction right before I can even go.
And I appreciate you guys because I was really missing. I usually watch Formula One with my wife. I'm a big Formula One fan, and it was the Monaco weekend. So what did Formula D had? It had the exact Monaco course that we raced on. I felt, right back at home with you guys. I really just appreciated you guys, playing that game. And man, it was just fun. You roll bigger dice when you want to go faster, and when you're in low gear, you roll the small one and hope you make the corner. And man, we had a blast. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
Yes,
absolutely
it
loved it.
really was. Okay, I'm gonna go into my number two. I actually just hinted at it in my last thing there, and it was Arc Nova. This game, right, and I really have thought about this game so much since the con. I don't want to like this game because it's the really popular game right now, right? Like, so I was very hesitant of my judgment on the game at first to be like, oh, everybody loves Arc Nova right now. I love it because everybody loves it. It's the big new terraforming Mars. But I think because I have literally thought about that game so much since the con. I have wanted to play it again. It's still ingrained in my brain. I'm like, no, that was a really good game. The terraforming esque, I'll say, of how much the cards are important, and although you acquire them in a different way than terraforming Mars, it does have that same feel. But then also it has the private board, and I don't know, there's so much. You have to know the game. I can't explain everything in these few minutes, but it was the hype lived up for me.
Yeah, so for me, Arc Nova, it did not make my list. It was a game, and I played it once before going to BGGSpring. I think it's a great game. I really do. I understand why people like it so much. You made the comparison to Terraforming Mars. I will just pick Terraforming Mars every time over Arc Nova. And we had kind of talked about it, and I think the reason is just because I don't know the cards to Arc Nova, right? There's a stack of cards bigger than this, right? Like it's a huge stack, and I'm just unsure what's in there, obviously, because I've only played it twice. But I think maybe the more playthroughs of it, the more I'll get accustomed to it, the more I'll end up liking it, and then the higher that it will end up eventually. But at this point in time, I'm just gonna go Terraforming Mars. I'm just, I guess, a comfort thing. I love the theme of Arc Nova. I love that part about it. I don't necessarily love the solitaire aspect of it, having your own board, not very much player interaction. I know Terraforming Mars doesn't have that much interaction either, but it is more than an Arc Nova.
So Arc Nova ended up on my number two as well.
Whoa.
We did end up buying it. So my wife and we've actually logged 7 plays since the con. So we liked it so much that we bought it. And Paul, I agree with everything you're saying. It's more solitaire, but for some people, who don't want
Hmm.
the conflict, that's exactly who it's for. It's for somebody who wants to build their own, little zoo with a little bit of, the conflict is, I need this card in the middle before
Hmm.
they, because it may share the same conservation goal. So Arc Nova didn't know what to expect going in. A lot of references kind of to Terraforming Mars. If you like Terraforming Mars, this is a good game as well. If you like animals, this is probably the game for you, and you like Terraforming Mars. So this is just, the stack of deck is huge. The replayability is huge. Now that we know it, we can play it in about an hour and a half. I think it took us, what, about 3 hours during the,
Hmm.
and that was about after 45 minutes of explanation. So it took us a little bit. The player downtime with three was a little bit long for me, having to wait, 2 players. Some players' turns were longer, but with two, man, this is an awesome game. And without playing it with you guys, I would have never got this to the table as quickly. So I really liked Arc Nova at the con.
And
Yeah.
Joe, you
Oh,
have a review for that coming out, don't you?
I do. The review should be out.
Yeah, we'll link it on here for you
somewhere up
somewhere.
here. Yes, but one last thing I really want to say about it. We've talked about like comparing it to Terraforming Mars, and really, if you know anything about the game, if you've done any research about the game at all, everybody's comparing it to Terraforming Mars, and it does. Like, it's justified. It has that feel, and you use comparisons to relate. Like, that's right. I think it's a theme thing, right? Like, some people are going to like Terraforming Mars because it is a Mars space theme. Some people are going to like Ark Nova because it is a animal theme. I think that both games are. I don't. At this moment, I can't really say one game is better than the other. I think they're both very good games, and I think there's justification for playing both. They play differently enough. The card acquisition is different enough. I actually like both, right? I enjoy drafting in Terraforming Mars a lot. I would almost never play without the drafting. The card acquisition in this game is very different than Terraforming Mars. I think, though, it has a perception of being a whole lot more luck-based than Terraforming Mars, but I actually kind of think that's a delusion because of being able to snap pick things, because of being able to flip your card and then pick off of the track. I think you actually have as much or more control than in Terraforming Mars. But on first glance, it definitely feels very luck-based of, I'm just going to take 3 cards off the deck, I'm going to trash 1 and hope that I draw what I can. But I think there's way more to it than it first appears.
And I think as my last aside, if I were with 3 people, I think I'd play Terraforming Mars. If it were me and someone else, I think Arc Nova is the way to go. That's just my own personal opinion. I think it just, Arc Nova plays great with 2. Terraforming Mars, just like you said, Devin, the the card drafting, thinking Paul needs one of these cards, but
Hmm.
I'm passing it to Devin. Devin, is he gonna take that card from Paul? That passing makes Terraforming Mars awesome at 3. And with Arc Nova, man, just the game really flows super well with 2.
I,
So, man, but I'm glad I got to experience Arc Nova with you
for
guys.
sure.
Well, for my number 2, I put Food Chain Magnate. This game for me, I went into it with the lowest expectations. It was a game that I've seen. It was a game that, I thought, oh, that'd be cool to learn. But I was never going to find anybody with the game. First of all, because it's impossible to find. It's ugly as sin, but once you actually play it, you realize, wait, that is kind of the theme. Like, it actually makes sense that it looks like this. It was just such a sleeper game for me. I went into it with the lowest of lowest expectations, and I didn't win. I didn't win almost any of the games over the weekend, but I had so much fun doing it, and it could have been, just I don't know the cards that I got, but I got so good at my marketing. I was sending out the flyers through the mailboxes, like it just everything worked out. Feeling the actual monopoly money, right? Like that was so cool, and having to pay the employees, like it was just so rich in theme, and I didn't expect that at all. And it was so much fun. It was such an awesome game.
Now, Paul, this isn't your normal style of game, is it?
Not at all. Not at all. And that was something else. Like just the fact that I enjoyed it so much, I was like, well, this has to be up higher. Like Devin said earlier, I've never seen a game played like this, right? Like the just the mechanics of the game. And then just the fact that it's okay, well, I need to hire this person to then get this person and this to get that. Like that's just not something that I'm interested in. But it worked. It worked for the game.
I'm so happy. Like, one, I didn't think this would make your list at all. I knew you enjoyed it when we played it for sure, and I knew you weren't really looking forward to playing it. This, I think, is gonna have to be like this is our gonna have to be. We keep doing these cons once a year, twice a year. We don't have a justification to own it, right? Like,
Hmm.
like Joe would never play this with Shelby, right? It's not something that Kirsten or Lacey would necessarily like to play, right? And I think this is going to have to be like we all enjoyed this game and we all just had fun, and it's our go-to game to play. Like, okay, once a con, we're going to go play Food Chain.
And I think the really good thing about it is, yeah, it took you about an hour to explain it to us, but I'll never forget how it's played. Like it is so natural, like what you're doing. You have to get this to get this. You have to do this to get that. Yeah, there's a couple things here and there that you might forget, just a couple oh no, you can't do this if it's here. But that's every game. Like it will never take, I would say at most 10 minutes to go over the rule to get this back on the table. Now, of course, there's tons of pieces and all the setup and stuff like that, but rule wise, I think I've got the game in my head forever.
Yeah,
That's
and this
awesome.
isn't one of those games. This is like, you usually us three, we don't play like the full cutthroat games.
Hmm.
Usually, a lot of the games we play are point salad or first one to get there wins or, something along that point. Where this game is, you need to shut out your competition.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And we played this late at night, but man, I'm with you, Paul. I had a good time with this game.
Yeah, it was a ton of fun. So I'm very happy that we got that one in.
Okay, so maybe before we get into our number ones, do we have any games that we want to talk about that didn't quite make the list for us? Something that we liked but just didn't quite get there?
Yeah, I have one. This was one that I was so excited to try. Uh, I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about just by even looking. Theme wise, it seems like it fits perfectly for me. The art, the components, just everything about it. I was so excited to try it, and it fell so flat playing with you guys. That's Honey Buzz. And I know it's not necessarily your types of games. I know you guys will play it, but it's not what you're kind of going for. I wanted to like this game so much. Like I don't know why. I just want to like it so much. And it was on my mind the whole time. I need to try this again. I need to try this again. So bad that I went out and got it. So I have Honey Buzz. I feel like this is a game that Kirsten will absolutely love. Joe, I know Shelby would play it with me next time we get together.
You sure would.
And Devin, you're gonna have to do a playthrough with me of it.
Know.
So
Sadly.
I think it's just one that I don't know. Maybe it was the environment that we were in. Honestly, it might be absolutely terrible, and I might be selling it next week, right? Like, but I just want to give it another shot.
I think, well, one, I have to admit, I came off of, we mentioned Dune, where I had a very soured experience. I'll be honest, was a bit of a sore loser on it, and we went right into that game. And that game, like, to me, I had no guidance. Like, again, I talked about this earlier in Meadow, that Meadow is do this action, get points, do this action, get points. Typically, that's not my style of game, and that's what that was. And I wanted there to be like let me build to this in-game scoring, and it wasn't there. And then it was way like, I don't ever really care about downtime in games like a lot of people do. And that game had a ton of downtime because some of my turns were literally me planning out 5 actions that took me 5 minutes, and then some of my turns took me 15 seconds, and you guys may have had a 5-minute turn, a 5-minute turn, and then I took a 15-second turn, and then you had a 5-minute turn and a 5-minute turn, and it's like, I just sat here for 20 minutes and did one thing, right? I don't know. There was so much that game fell so flat for me.
Maybe it fell flat because we beat him, Paul.
That could be it too.
Wait, by the way, guys, Devin won a majority of the games over the weekend, so good job,
Out
Devin.
of 23, I took 2.
It was, Devin, I'm kind of in the same boat you were about the game. I wanted to like it. It's a nice, cute game. It was fun, but when you have a 5-second turn and then you have a 2 or 3 minute turn, knowing the other two people at the table are just waiting for you, and there's nothing that they're gonna do. We'll just see.
Yeah.
Paul, I'll be excited to see what you think in future playthroughs.
And like I said, I'm not sure if I'm sold on it yet. I don't know if it was just, the first playthrough. I wanted to give it the old college try, And if nobody likes it except for me, it's got a solo on there, and I will solo that game all the time. So I'm fine with that.
Okay, so we'll move on. I have an honorable mention. A game that I actually think we were all excited about was Root. I'm not putting this as a dislike. I'm putting it as like a question mark still, right? We actually played this 2 times back to back
Mm-hmm.
because the game played way quicker than any of us expected, right? I think we all expected this to be a 2.5 hour war game, and it played in about 45 minutes, which was awesome. I think that's actually a big perk of the game,
Mm-hmm.
was that. But it's still, we all kind of walked away from it scratching our heads like, I don't know, at least in my opinion, none of us were totally against the game, but none of us were totally for the game. It sits in this limbo. I think we may need to try it again. So I don't know. It's just I enjoyed the playthrough, but I don't know. I guess I need to experience it again, right? I don't know.
Paul, what'd you think of that one?
So I'll say after the first playthrough of it, I never wanted to play it again. It was just one that I did not understand. I mean, I understood my Marquis de Cats. Like I knew he could move, I knew he could build, I knew he could do this and that. And it just didn't it just didn't do what I needed it to do, right? And of course, that's probably because I understand the movements, but I'm not playing it right. So, like we said, it finished in about 45 minutes, and at that point, we are like, well, let's try it again. Like we had kind of blocked out 2 to 3 hours for this game. Let's see again. Maybe it's a little bit better. And on the second playthrough, I think I got the hang of it a little bit more, and I didn't do much better, but it felt like I did much better. And Devin, like you said with Arc Nova, you've really been thinking about it the last 2 weeks, and that was something that we had talked about that night. Was a game is good if you continue to think about it, right? Like if you still have questions about it. And I'm still have so many questions about Root. Like it's a game that people love, right? People
Right.
absolutely love this game. There's so many expansions to it, there's so many other things that you can do to it. There's got to be something that we're missing. And I know we're missing something because we had the same issue every game. The Woodland Alliance would just ramp up so quickly that we couldn't stop them. And there has to be a way to stop them. Like there just has to be. So I don't know. It's one of those games that I have been thinking about. Thankfully, there's a copy up here at the board game bar, and we're gonna play it.
All right.
Yeah, I just think it's a game that I'm gonna be honest, it's gonna get demoted to the I'm gonna play on an airplane. I have it downloaded on my iPad and I'm gonna just play it on the airplane just to pass the time. You know the phrase I would say is I'm lukewarm on Root. I don't know if I hate it, but I don't love it.
Yeah.
It kind of fits in that it was a game category and we played it and experienced it. So and maybe with a few more plays it'll get better, or maybe with a few more plays I'll decide that it's just not my style.
Exactly. Do you have any games that you kind of want to bring
I
up? Didn't quite hit the list, or
I actually have three, so sorry, and
no?
two of
Yeah.
them are the same kind of style. They're roll and rights. So Paul is a big fan of roll and rights, and
Hmm.
I haven't really played too many, but there's a couple times we needed some downtime, so we played this game called Paper Dungeons.
Hmm.
Paper Dungeons was just a nice, easy game where we rolled, moved a person through the dungeon, and kind of fought our way through. Did you guys have any thoughts on that one, real
Yes,
quick?
I super loved that game. That game was so much fun. It is like, again, I don't typically care about theme, but that is a theme for me, right? I live in a epic fantasy world, so I'm all about like all of that stuff and just building my little D&D party to go defeat monsters and collect loot. It was fun. It was, oh man, I don't know. It was so much fun. I really enjoyed that game. Honestly, there wasn't a ton of games I came out of this con being like, I really want that game, but that was one of them. I thought I could definitely buy that game and just play it in 30 minutes anytime.
Yeah, that was a good one, and it's funny that you really enjoyed the theme in that one because the theme for me fell flat. Like I am not the I would love to be the D&D person. Like I really do want to play some of those games and stuff like that. But I remember asking you guys like what is this? Like I don't know what this means. Oh, that's your health or whatever, right? I'm just like, oh, okay, now it makes sense, right? Like I understand now. So I think if that is like a theme for you, awesome game. And it was a ton of fun once I understood what I'm doing, right? Like but that was a good game. I did enjoy it.
And I know just the other quick honorable mention. I know, we played Hadrian's Wall, and Paul, thanks for introducing,
Hmm.
that roll and write to us. I think we had a great time. But my honorable mention that actually got more close was Raiders of Scythia.
Okay.
Sending people out and
Awesome.
watching your people just raid and go die. It was I don't know why I was smiling when people were just dying across the board. I just thought it was we just had a maybe it was that time of the con where I just wanted to have a good time, and Whirling Witches didn't really click for you guys, and Raiders of Scythia were more down our alley.
Yeah, I honestly I'm so happy that you like that game because like I was a bit worried. Paul and I have both played Raiders of the North Sea many times, and it's just a reskin of that game with some tweaks. So I knew we liked that game, but I was really kind of unsure if you would, and I'm glad you did because I think that is a game that's just fun and it's a good game, right? Like I don't think it's one of the greatest games in the world, but I think it is just a game you can go have fun, and that is I've said it many times that is such an important thing.
And with that one, again, it's one that once you learn it, you know it, right? Like there's not the iconography on there is so good. It tells you exactly what it is. It's like all of Garfield games. If you've played one, you kind of understand what's going on. I love Raiders of Scythia. I got to play it last night again. I taught Kirsten the game. Um, and it's just so like I love that the mechanic of you put a worker, you take up a worker. Like that's just so I don't know. It's a clever way to do the worker placement aspect. So that is a great game.
Two actions a turn. It's interesting to place, pick up,
Hmm.
and then you don't know where you're leaving the other people, and just kind of unga bunga your warriors in there, and who cares if they die because you're gonna pillage. It brought me a lot of joy at the end of the con. So
That's
that
good.
was my honor. Those are my honorable mentions: Paper Dungeons and Raiders of Scythia.
Okay, so let's move on to our big old number ones. I will start it off because both of y'all have already mentioned this game. Number one for me was so easy. It was Wonderland's War. This was my game of the con. I completely loved this game. I loved every single aspect about this game. I mentioned it earlier. I'm not an Alice in Wonderland fan at all. Never in my life would I have tried this game. I don't even know what made us pick this game up. It wasn't one we even went into to think about
Hmm.
in the beginning. None of us even knew it was a bag builder, right? That was the crazy thing too. But I just completely loved it. There's so much. The area control, right? The fact that it's really two the two phases of the game, right? The tea party phase and then the war phase are two totally different things. But like both are fun and like something to do. I don't even know how to explain it. They're both really good and unique against each other. I really liked it. I liked the mechanic of going around the tea party and selecting things and
Hmm.
weighing how many shards it's worth and like, do I want to have more? Am I okay with taking the extra madness, or let me keep just under Paul so he gets the madness, right? And then going into the war and the strategy there. I think man, it had so many good games. It had that card drafting. It had that area control. It had that Quacks bag building. We've talked games like Arnak where it does a whole lot of things but doesn't do them well. This game is one that did a whole lot of things and did do them well.
Yeah, I mean, I do think it's a great game. I hope that you get it because I will play it anytime that you want to get it out.
Yeah, so that is the home run for me, and definitely one I do want to buy from the con.
Well, guys, I'm gonna be a little bit boring and also a little bit, nostalgic, as this was one of the first games we played, and it was Beyond the Sun. I know this game on the table looks so boring. It's so bland. It's so everything just not interesting in the game. But to me, this is like the quintessential board game. It's worker placement. You're flipping over random cards down a tech tree with a little bit of side area control. And the area control is not even that big. You get your card for victory points. and another card comes back out. So you're not really fighting. You're just kind of whoever has more people in there and gets their card at the right time. I know it was our first game at the con. We had a lot of energy, and I just enjoyed moving dice around because the dice are all the same. They just have the different sides. It has a tech tree, and I know it's just a boring game on the table, but to me, this is like the quintessential just plain board game, and I had a great time playing with you guys.
Yeah, I'm honestly kind of surprised that Arc Nova wasn't your number one. When you mentioned that one before, that I was like, whoa, what could number one be? But now that you're saying Beyond the Sun, of course, you were. We know that you absolutely loved it. I thought that was a very fun game. That was a good game. I did like the aspect of the little dice here, and then you place them over here, and then you're managing your resources. I really did like the tech tree aspect of it, to where you're going to level one cards, level two, level three cards, and flipping them over. I got real lucky on my last level three flip that it actually turned out to be what I needed. So there was the right amount of luck on there, right amount of strategy. It was a great game, and I hope that you do get it, because again, that will be one that I will play.
So this was also a game that like Paul mentioned, right? A good game to me, because we talked about it, is a game that I really think about, and I've thought about that game since playing it. And it's been whatever, a week or two. I think there's so much more to the game than when we finished up and packed it up and put it away that I initially thought. Right? There's so many different point avenues, and it is not necessarily the point salad type of thing, although it does have that. But like, there's different strategies, and like I could focus on X and that be my end goal. And the game ended up being very tight. I think I won that game by 1 point to Joe, and Paul only falling a couple points behind there, right?
And we were within 5 points of each other, and we're talking, for everybody's reference, maybe a 46-42 kind of spread.
Hmm.
In there we're not talking, 5-2. We were close in the 40s. So
And so, like, I've thought about it, and it's like, there's just more I want to explore in that game, right? I ended up kind of really focusing on the area control side of things and collecting the different planets or whatever they were called. But I didn't get to do the tech tree, and it's like, I really want to do that tech tree. I want to expand the whole thing and make it to level 4 and have all these awesome actions to do. Because like, we just started seeing it at the end, and I'm like, wow, that's a really powerful move I wish I could be doing. And so it's like, I want to go try that. And then you mentioned it, the dice thing. I thought that dice and that supply mechanic was so well done. The different channels for your population and being able to pull out of different ones. The fact that your supply die was also your workers, which was also your ships, and then upgraded ships beyond that. That was an amazing system really implemented in that game. I really did enjoy that game too.
Yeah, and so for my number one, I actually went out and got this one as well. Meadow. So, I know that both of you guys said that you'd want to try it. Honestly, the reason that this one is a number one for me is because I know everybody that I will play games with will enjoy this game. Like, it's a game that I know that I could have in my collection, and it can come out every game night, and everybody will enjoy the game. There's enough replayability on it with all the different cards, the north, south, east, west cards, that you're just never going to have the same game. The fact that the cards come out, they slide down that track, you pick which one you want. I love the mechanic of having the little pointer token, and you can go from either the right side or the left side or the bottom. If there's nothing there, you can go to the campfire and do one of those other actions. Like, I just think it's such a really well done game. Obviously, the artwork is phenomenal on it, and it's just a game that I can see anytime I pull it out, whether it be new people that I meet, or just the game group that we always have. I think that's one that will just always be played.
I thought the ease of the explaining of the rules, I think will be really, nice and smooth for you. Everybody's gonna score points, and I think
Hmm.
that's a good thing in some of these games because nobody wants to either score negative points or be, have a runaway leader. But with this game, you know, you're just always going to be
Yeah.
accumulating, points, meadows. By the end of the game, I know my wife and I both like to feel like we built something, and you're always taking these cards. And I think Devin and Paul, I think we ended up with what, maybe eight, 8 or 9 wide, and some had 3 to 4 cards on them each, and we had
Mhm.
our pictures and Meadow. I mean, it's a neat little game.
And like Devin mentioned earlier, there is definitely some strategy to this game as well. It's not just picking the prettiest looking cards, right? Like some cards only come out in the south deck or in the west deck, and you have to be looking for those. At first when we first played it, I saw the houses come out there, and for some reason, with no other point of reference, I thought that houses would be the highest thing just because,
So did I.
right? Like that just makes sense to me. And then come to realize there's so many freaking houses coming out here. I don't need them. I need that butterfly that I've seen one of, right? So there really is like a strategy to the game. And, unfortunately, maybe for those with us, we were all on the same playing field. If Devin, if we get Lacey and Kirsten to play with it, maybe they might not be on that same level. But after a couple playthroughs, we're all there, and it's a good game.
Yeah, and something you touch base on that I think that game almost feels like it would be solitaire in that, oh, I'm just building my own tableau, but that pointer system is what
Hmm.
makes it have a ton of player interaction, right? Like, do I want to take this grasslands here, or do I want to take this one here because I think that Joe wants something else on
Hmm.
that row, right? It was a really, and just the way it was, and then sometimes it's like, oh my goodness, all I have is my number 3, and I don't want anything on either of those two rows. Like, this is a complete disaster. I don't know, that system was just, it was really neat. It was a really neat type of thing.
And, it's almost like a little layer of resource management because you only have those are your actions for the turn. So you really have to kind of think, are those special actions, do you need those later,
Hmm.
in the turn? Or is there a certain card that you're really gunning for? And if someone blocks your space, well, I hope you're like Paul, because we realize this about Paul. Paul likes to improvise during games, come out with new strategies. And Paul, I think this is a great game for you because this is one of those, essential. You don't need to have a strategy. You need to be able to adapt to what's out there.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. So anyway, that's my number one. I just thought it was a. I'm so glad that we picked it up. Like I said, it was one that I had seen that I had thought, oh yeah, that I would want to play that one, and it just slipped my mind. But I thought it was awesome.
Yeah, and
Leaving the con.
I think I was
Oh,
literally just like standing in the library, hearing two people talk about the game, and like, oh, you should get this one. That's cool. And I looked at it, and again, I looked at the artwork, and I'm like, oh, whatever. But then I mentioned it, and you're like, oh, I've heard of that game before. So we just got it on the table, read the rule book, and played, and yeah, it ended up being good. That though, everybody, is our list. Thank you guys so much for watching this. Thank you, hopefully, for watching it to the end. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Leave comments. Tell us what you liked about these games. What games you think that were crazy for liking, like Formula D. Who knows? But thank you guys so much. Thank you, Joe, for not only joining us at the con, but for this after talk and just being here with us. We really do appreciate that. It's always fun having you and being a part of our Dads and Dice crew, or family, I should say. So thank you for joining us. Please, everybody, like, comment, subscribe, do all those things to both us, to Joe, help our channels grow. We really do appreciate it. We put this content out for you guys. That's all we have. We're going to link, again, a description for all the games that we played. We'll probably put this whole list up somewhere around here where you can see it, because if we've been talking for who knows how long and you probably forgot our number 5s by now. But that's all I really have. Do you guys have anything else?
yeah, I was just gonna say, if there's any games on the list that you guys are interested in hearing about, definitely let us know, and we'll let you guys know what we thought of them, and then tell us why we should really like whatever game we didn't even talk about. Maybe we'll try it out again.
So
Yeah, and Devin and Paul, man, I just had a great weekend with you guys. Being the first con, BGG Spring in Dallas was awesome. And who knows, maybe BGG Con in November is calling our name.
maybe. So everybody stick around to find out. We will see y'all later. Three,
Joe, you got to smile also because you never smile.
2. Yeah, that is true. You don't smile in the intros. You're just like, most of the time it's like this because you're watching the screen. And then like we say something funny or we say our intro and you're like you're laughing at it like you're watching it for the first time. And then it's like once we introduce you, you're like, huh.